Hi, and welcome back to the Crafty Author. We're getting ready to add borders to our strip quilt that we've been working on. And I'm going to show you what I have here real quick. It's going to be very similar to what we did with the blocks. However, now you're going to be working with longer strips. So I'm going to flip the camera and I'm going to show you how I do my borders. I have gone along and went and cut all of my strips for my quilt. I've actually cut all 4 of the strips. However, I know that on 2 sides it's going to be longer after I attach these to the top. So when I attach these horizontally, then I'm going to have 2 vertical strips which are going to be longer. So I always wait to do those last, those vertical strips. That's very important. Otherwise you're going to have pieces that aren't going to match up. So what I've done is I've taken a scrap of just some white fabric that I've had laying around. 5 inches is what I cut my borders for this one. You can do 6, you can do 4, you can do it however wide you want to, but I just went ahead and did mine at 5. I also cut a backing piece at 5. This backing piece actually matches the back of my quilt, so I just stayed with that fabric. Then what I did was I cut a piece of batting that I stick in between here. Okay, you can see I have that there. I cut this at 4.5. Now normally I would cut my batting bigger because I'm going to quilt over this, but when you're dealing with borders, you really want this to be more confined. So I cut it just a little smaller, so 4.5 inches for that. Then I went through and I used my quilt clips just to clip it down. Now you can use pins or whatever helps you to keep your sandwich in place, okay? And so I'm just using my clips for now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to start quilting my border. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to free motion or if I'm just going to use a machine stitch. And I might just use a machine stitch because I do enjoy using my machine. Oh, I can't talk today. Machine stitches because they're just kind of fun and real easy, and it just goes pretty quick. So I'm going to go over to the machine. I'm going to quilt this, and then I will show you what it looks like when I'm finished. This is the finished border. As you can see, I've used a wavy stitch on my sewing machine to quilt the border. When I first started, my border was 5 inches. And now after sewing and with movement, because it always moves when you quilt just a little bit, I have cut mine down to 4 inches now. So these are going to be 4-inch borders. So I always like to allow for a little bit of movement when I quilt borders or blocks or anything of the sorts. So, but this is what it looks like once it's quilted. And the back side, this fabric that I used is actually got, I think it's polyester, and it really is very difficult to work with. So make sure that you're working with 100% cotton. I just chose that because it's what I had in my stash and not even realizing really what it was. So I just had a ton of it. So now it's all used up, but it is difficult to quilt with. So if you are quilting with something like that, just be mindful, okay, that it might pucker up and wrinkle a tad bit more than cotton. So to start attaching the borders to your quilt using Quilt As You Go, you're going to need a 2-inch strip, just like when we attach the blocks, just like when we attach the rows. You're going to need a 2-inch strip, which you will iron in half, just like that. You will need your 1-inch strip, which is going to go on the front of your quilt, right side down against the raw edge, just like we did before. And you're going to put your 2-inch strip that's folded in half on the back side. Raw edge on the back. I'm going to go pin, and I will show you when I'm finished. Here we are now. I've got everything put together. I've got my 1-inch strip and my 2-inch strip attached to my quilt edge, just like we did with the blocks and the rows. It's the same exact thing that you're going to do. So I've already pinned. As you can see, I've got, you know, that one's pinned down. This one is loose, but everything's pinned and ready to go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew 1/4 of an inch along this edge to attach these 2 strips. Now, what works best when sewing through many layers is to use a walking foot. I am not using a walking foot, but I have used a walking foot for this process, and I will tell you, it does make life a whole lot easier. So just be mindful of that. Here I am at my sewing machine, and I'm going to just finish sewing the strips onto my quilt, just so you can see what that kind of looks like. I'm going to have to go slow so that I don't go off the rails here, because it's hard to do it with a camera. But as you can see, I'm just sewing that 1/4 of an inch. I'm using my 1/4 of an inch foot, which is right there, and I'm just using the edge of that foot to guide myself. Like I said, it is easier to go through all of the layers with a walking foot, but for this purpose, I'm going to just continue with my 1/4 inch foot. So I'm a little bit off now, so I'm making sure that my back matches my front, and it does. I do apologize. It's hard to sew and hold the camera. It's a little bit tough. And there we go. So now I'm done with that. So now you know what that kind of looks like. I've been to the ironing board and I have gone ahead and pressed my 1-inch strip out after I attached it. I still have my 2-inch strip on the back. We're not going to do anything with that right now. What we are going to do is we're going to take our border strip that we quilted, this one, and now we're going to flip it right side down to our 1-inch strip. So we'll have 2 nice sides butted up together. And then I'm just going to go ahead and pin this strip to my border, and then I will go and I will stitch it down 1/4 of an inch. My border is now attached. As you can see, I sewed 1/4 of an inch, and now when I flip it, it's attached to the front side of the quilt. Now what I will do is I will go over and I will give this a little press, just because I like to do that, and then I will go ahead and press the back side over like so, and then I will sew using my zigzag stitch to seal it up, to close this. I'll show you when I'm finished. Our border is now attached and it looks beautiful, just beautiful. So as you can see, I went ahead and used my decorative stitch to attach the piece. Sorry, the strips. So that's what I did on the back, was I used a zigzag stitch just to catch that. And it just gives it a little bit more character on the back of the quilt. But this looks beautiful. I love it. This quilt is very wonky, and again, I'm loving it. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to finish putting the borders all around our quilt, and then I will put the binding on. And this is what I'm going to be using for binding. I just found some of this in my stash that's already been put together, and I just like it because it has some really pretty flowers, and I think it'll give it just a little bit of pop. So I'm really excited to do this. I will do another video on how to do the binding, so you just stay with me and we'll finish this quilt and it'll be gorgeous. So thank you for joining me today for learning how to do the borders. I still have quite a bit of work to do on the other sides, so I need to get to that. But I'm going to finish it, and I'm hoping to get the binding video up today as well. So you might get twice the dose of me. Just kidding. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to finishing this. For those of you who are doing this quilt along with me, oh, I'm so excited. I've seen a couple of them that are that have been done, and they are absolutely gorgeous. And I get so excited when I see other people's work, especially using a design that I made for the sampler quilt. I am just so excited about that, and your quilts are gorgeous. So please keep sharing them with me along the way. I love to see your progress. So until later today, I'll see ya. Bye-bye.